Although Yamaha has discontinued the production of these mixing consoles, they are still in use today and are pretty popular in small to medium-sized churches and events across Nigeria. As a matter of fact, you will most likely find them in the next professional audio equipment store you visit, brand new, and even in local online stores. I believe this is probably because they are great sounding consoles, but just how good are they? That's what we're about to find out. Hello, my name is Kelvin, and in this video I'll be reviewing the Yamaha MG24 14FX and MG32 14FX mixing consoles. It is essential to know that both consoles differ only in the number of input channels, 24 for the MG24 14FX and 32 for the MG32 14FX. They both have 14 output buses and 2 Yamaha's digital effects processors built in. I have a tutorial video on these consoles where I explain the function of all the knobs and buttons amongst other things. That video just dropped with this one, and so if you want an in-depth beginner to pro tutorial on these consoles, you can check that out. Link is in the description. The MG24 14FX has 24 inputs, 16 of which are mono channels and 4 pairs of stereo channels. The MG32 14FX differs only in the number of mono channels. It has 24 mono and 4 pairs of stereo channels, making a total of 32 inputs. The mono channels each have balanced XLR and quarter-inch TRS jack inputs, labeled as inputs A and B respectively. They provide 48-volt phantom power, which can be switched in 8 channel groups, which means that there are 2 phantom power switches for the MG24 14FX and 3 for the MG32 14FX. Each mono channel strip has a 26 dB pad switch and an 80 Hz high pass filter. The gain knob ranges from -16 dB to 60 dB with the pad switch off, and from +10 dB to -34 dB with the pad switch engaged, allowing for optimum matching with the broadest possible range of sources. Channel signal and peak indicators are provided to facilitate optimum level matching. Each mono channel has a 3-band EQ, high, mid, and low. The mid band is semi-parametric. You can check out my video on how to use EQ on a mixing console, linked here and also in the description. The stereo channels each have a pair of balanced quarter-inch TRS inputs. The last 2 channel pairs have additional RCA connectors. This is an excellent addition because you can directly connect the audio from a DVD player or other music playback devices into the mixer using RCA cables and still have complete control and routing option of an entire channel strip. There are no pad switches and high pass filter on the stereo channels. The gain knob ranges from +10 dB to -34 dB, and it has a 4-band EQ with fixed frequencies for high mid and low mid bands. Both the mono and stereo channels each have 6 auxiliary knobs. Aux 1 to 4 is switchable between pre and post fader, while the last 2 are switchable between aux 5 and 6 and effects 1 and 2. These are post fader sends. There are also pan knobs on the channel, and they are somehow labeled as balanced on the stereo channels. In addition to the main stereo bus that fits the console's main outputs, the MG24 14FX and MG32 14FX feature 4 group buses for convenient sub-mix grouping, 6 auxiliary buses for monitoring and external effect send, and send buses for the 2 internal effect processors. That's a total of 14 buses in all for exceptionally flexible signal routing. The channel send knobs and bus assign switches make it easy to send the signal from each channel to the stereo, group, internal effect, and auxiliary buses as required. The main stereo outputs and mono output feature rugged XLR type connectors that lock to minimize the chance of accidental disconnection. The group and auxiliary outputs feature balanced TRS jack connectors. The mic preamps built into these consoles sound really great. Having used them for a while, I can say for sure that they perform well with very little to no noise. Mono input channels feature insert patch points that can be used to insert external signal processing devices into the channel's signal path. What makes this even more interesting is that insert I/O points are also provided on the stereo bus left and right and on the 4 group buses. A low pass filter with a roll-up frequency that can be varied from 80 Hz to 120 Hz is provided on the mono output. This means you can use this output bus directly with a subwoofer without the need for an external crossover. 4 high visibility 12 segment meters are switchable to allow precise visual monitoring of levels on the main stereo bus, the 4 group buses, the PFL bus, or the AFL bus. PFL buttons are available in all inputs to the mixer. The input channel strips, 2-track inputs, the internal effect returns, and the external stereo returns all feature individual PFL buttons. Furthermore, all output buses, that's the stereo left and right, groups and auxiliaries, have individual AFL buttons. Pretty impressive stuff, right? By the way, PFL stands for pre-fader listen and DFL stands for after fader listen. You can check my tutorial video on these consoles for more on that. Again, link is in the description. Both mixers contain a powerful pair of Yamaha digital signal processors that provide a useful selection of 16 advanced digital effects. Effect programs include reverb, delays, pitch change, chorus, phasers, voice doublers, and distortion. The effects include editable parameters, so they can be customized as required, and Processor B even has a tap switch for real-time tap tempo entry. With these top performance effect processors built in, you can conveniently create your sound without having to transport or set up racks of external effects. I love the fact that these consoles come with the channel on switches as opposed to mute buttons. Even better is that these buttons, as well as the PFL and phantom power switches, are illuminated, so it's easy to visually check vital console settings. A talkback microphone input is provided for easy, efficient communication between the sound engineer and musicians and staff in live sound applications during setup, rehearsal, and the actual performance. The travel distance of the faders on these consoles is 60mm. The layout of the faders, rotary controls, switches, and buttons allow for easy operation and visual confirmation of settings. Let's check out the build quality. These consoles are built with a combination of metal, wood, and plastic. They feature a metal chassis, wooden sides, and plastic knobs. The metal is sturdy and holds up pretty well. The wood, on the other hand, doesn't live up to my expectations, in my opinion. I mean, take a look at this particular console. This one has seen better days, and this comes from constant setup and tear down across different venues under dry and wet weather conditions. As you can see, this wood has taken a major hit as far as visual aesthetics go, although its strength hasn't been affected. While the knobs feel sturdy, the faders are somewhat frail. I mean, they can bend or even break if not properly handled. If you accidentally drop a microphone on these faders from a height as little as the length of the microphone, you might regret it. Another thing worth mentioning is that these consoles are not rack mountable.